the discrepancy between the president's reaction to incidents like this, which he calls fake news, and talks quite a bit about, and his silence on actual disinformation campaigns like Russia ran during the 2016 election to deliberately spread false information. So both his silence on that, and does he recognize the difference between these two?
Difference, look, the president's simply calling out a very direct and false accusation lodged against him. There was nothing more than an individual trying to put their bias into their reporting, and something that frankly has gotten a little bit out of control. We've seen it time and time again over the last couple of weeks. A number of outlets have had to retract and change and rewrite and make editor's notes to a number of different stories, some of them with major impacts, including moving markets. This is a big problem, and we think it's something that should be taken seriously. Jim?
Reporters' mistakes and disinformation campaign by a foreign government. Does he see a distinction there?
I haven't spoken with him about that, but certainly we would take any misinformation like that very seriously. But it's not something we're comparing the two on. Jim?
And I would just say, Sarah, that journalists make honest mistakes, and that doesn't make them fake news. But the question that I have...
When journalists make honest mistakes, they should own up to them. Sometimes, and a lot of times you don't. But there's a difference. There's a very big... I'm sorry, I'm not finished. There's a very big difference between making honest mistakes and purposefully misleading the American people, something that happens regularly. You can't say, I'm not done. You cannot say, you cannot say that it's an honest mistake when you're purposely putting out information that you know to be false, or when you're taking information that hasn't been validated, that hasn't been offered any credibility, and that has been continually denied by a number of people, including people with direct knowledge of an instance. This is something that I'm speaking about the number of reports that have taken place over the last couple of weeks. I'm simply stating that there should be a certain level of responsibility in that process.
This was not...
Brian, I called on Jim.
This is not the line of questioning that I was going down, but can you cite a specific story that you say is intentionally false, that was intentionally put out there to mislead the American people?
Sure. The ABC report by Brian Ross, I think that was pretty misleading to the American people, and I think that it's very telling that that individual had to be suspended because of that reporting. I think that shows that the network took it seriously and recognized that it was a problem.
Sarah,
Jim?
if I may, though, I was going to ask a question about something
Well,
else.
you used it on something else.
Sarah,
Jim?
if I may...
Sarah,
I
Not
think it's...
yet.
I think
We're
it's
going to keep moving, guys.
if I can ask about the
other
president's accusations...
I'm moving
that
to a
have been
different
leveled
Jim.
against
I'm
him.
sorry.
I know, but I didn't get a chance to ask the question that I wanted to ask, which is...
Jim.
Can you just say once and for all whether these
Jim, I'm going to say once and
accusations-
for all that I'm moving on to Jim Stinson, and I'm not taking another question from you at this point.
I was
Sarah, a question about
to respond
investment-
to your attacks on the
investment
VP,
taxes.
If that's okay, I would like to ask the question that I had about these accusations of misconduct against the president. You said that he's denied them. Can you say whether or not they are false?
I'm not
That's
going
all
to
I'm
respond
asking.
to another
You're
question.
not
Go
going
ahead, Jim.
Some investors are saying the tax reform package favors mutual funds over individual investors. Other critics who want tax reform say the bill will cause some tax increases for a few middle-class tax filers. By a few, I mean maybe tens of thousands, but maybe more. Will the president sign the tax bill even if there are inadvertent tax increases and some of the criticisms are correct?
As I've said many times before, our focus and our priorities are making sure that we provide middle-class tax relief and simplifying the code, bringing businesses back here to the U.S. We're going to continue pushing for that and continue working with Congress to make sure we get the best tax package possible. Francesca.
Thank you, Sarah. Wanted to ask you about the women who came forward today against the president. They first were on a television show, and then they were at a press conference, and they said that he should resign, and then also that there should be a congressional investigation. And I know that you said that this has already been litigated in the last election, but I wanted to get your specific reaction to this idea that there should be a congressional investigation into this.
Look, the president has addressed these accusations directly and denied all of these allegations, and this took place long before he was elected to be president, and the people of this country had a decisive election, supported President Trump, and we feel like these allegations have been answered through that process. April?
Sarah, what is the disconnect as it relates to this White House when it comes to then candidate Trump bringing the accusers of Bill Clinton to the debate against Hillary Clinton, and now the accusers of Roy Moore making these accusations and his accusers? What's the disconnect here?
Look, as the president said, he found the allegations troubling. And if they were true, then he should step aside, and ultimately the people of Alabama will make a decision in that race. Trey.
His own accusers, though. He has accusers as well.
Look, the
who are coming
president
out
has
now.
firsthand knowledge on what he did and didn't do. He can speak directly to those, and he has, and he's addressed them. And I don't have anything further to add. Trey.
The American public about this, because this is spinning and it's focused on him now.
And he's addressed it directly to the American
But will
people.
he? It's
Trey.
coming up new and afresh, and more people are now speaking out.
April,
Will
I'm
this-
going to keep moving.
I understand,
I'm
but
trying to
will the
cover as many
president
of your
address
colleagues
the nation
today.
on this? This is a huge issue, Sarah.
I know, and there are a lot of big issues today. I'm trying to cover as many of them as possible by calling on a number of your colleagues. And I've called on Trey, and I'm going to
Will the
move to
president
him.
come out and address this, please? Sarah, all you have to
He
do is say
has,
yes or no.
April. I've already addressed this. The president has addressed it. I don't have anything else to add. Kristen.
Sarah, thank you. I want to follow up on that. But first, a little bit of breaking news we just learned about. The Pentagon apparently will now allow transgender people to enlist in the military beginning January 1st. Your reaction to that and any follow-up action you're going to take?
Yeah, as of right now, they're simply complying with a court order and preparing to implement a previous policy to remain in compliance. The Department of Justice is currently reviewing the legal options to ensure that the president's directive can be implemented. And for anything further and any specifics on both of those matters, I'd refer you to the Department of Defense and the Department of Justice.
Okay, one follow-up.
Sorry,
One
Maura,
follow-up very
I'm gonna
quickly
keep
on
moving
friendship.
today.
Just very quickly, Sarah.
Sorry, Kristen.
Can I just
Maura,
ask you
go
about
ahead.
Nikki Haley's comments saying that the president
Sorry, go ahead.
deserved to be heard?
I'll pick that up.
She's going to pick it up for you today.
Nikki Haley, as I'm sure you know, said, when asked, does the election mean that's a settled issue, which you've been arguing from the podium here, she said, I know he was elected, but women should always feel comfortable coming forward. We should all be willing to listen to them, specifically referring to the accusers of the president. Does the president agree with her?
Look, as the president said himself, he thinks it's a good thing that women are coming forward, but he also feels strongly that a mere allegation shouldn't determine the course. And in this case, the president has denied any of these allegations, as have eyewitnesses. And several reports have shown those eyewitnesses also back up the president's claim in this process. And again, the American people knew this and voted for the president, and we feel like we're ready to move forward in that process.
The women who accused him are coming forward now again?
The president has said that it's a good thing for women to be able to feel comfortable in coming forward, generally speaking. Jacqueline.
I just want to go off of that, Sarah. But the president told Howard Stern in 2005 that he had walked into a teen beauty pageant dressing room where he said that teen contestants had no clothes on because he could sort of get away with things like that. Is that not an admission of sexual harassment?
Look, the president's spoken about this directly. I don't have anything further to add on the process.
Public ever.
Charlie, we're going to do one question today, guys, to move around.
Two questions. Who are the eyewitnesses who dispute these allegations against the president? And can you stand here right now and say without a doubt, 100% certainty that the more than dozen women who have come forward to accuse this president of misconduct are lying? Do you wrestle with this personally at all?
I'm here to speak on behalf of the president, and I can say that the president has directly responded and said that these allegations are false, and that's what I'm doing and relaying that information to you. In terms of the specific eyewitness accounts, there have been multiple reports, and be happy to provide them to you after the briefing is completed. Brian?
So let me just follow up on that question a little bit. As a woman standing out there talking to us, I know your job is to relate what the president says. Have you ever been sexually harassed, and do you understand, and I'm not saying by the president, I'm saying ever, and secondly, do you have an empathy for those who come forward? Because it's very difficult for women to come forward.
Absolutely would say that I have an empathy for any individual who has been sexually harassed, and that certainly would be the policy of the White House. I'm not here to speak about my personal experience on that front, but I'm here to relay information on behalf of the president, and that's what I'm focused on doing here today. I'm going to take one last question. Philip.
So the last suspects of terrorism were not trained in Syria or Iraq, and Thursday the Russians stopped their operations. They said that they'd gotten rid of ISIS in Syria. Saturday the Iraqi Prime Minister said this fight against ISIS is won. Why would the U.S. still need to fight on the ground over there?
Look, as long as there's any member of ISIS left, we want to continue pushing forward and making sure not only that they're eradicated, but that they don't quickly turn around and come back. And we'll continue to push forward and making sure